Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today we are covering local school district revenue, including local options to increase funding in support of academic strategic plans. My name is Andrew Hodge. I am the Associate Commissioner of System Innovation.
And I'm David Marks, the Director of Financial Compliance.
And today, the purpose of our conversation is to increase district awareness of state funding sources, including those inside and outside of district control, and how those supports align with research-backed student sports. We also want to provide you all with a suite of tools, including this webinar, the recording, and a slide deck, but also kind of a district decisions funding tool that you can tinker with to see the impact of different decisions on the funds that are available to your district. With that, let's jump in.
You can see that district funding has increased in the last 10 years. This last year, which is the most recent year that we have from audited and PEIMS data, the amount was $16,219 per student. In the 25-26 year, from the most recent legislative session, they increased that by $750 per student. And overall, that'll be an increase of approximately $4 billion per year, which is the largest increase in history. But first, let's start by reviewing your own district's total revenue. School system's most recent year that was audited was that 23-24 school year. And we are reflecting on the total statewide PEIMS financial standard report, the actual numbers. And we're going to show you how we came up with that $16,219 number. First, in state funding, you had the state operating funds. You have the state assistance for debt service, which is EDA and IFA. And then you also included in that number is the TRS contributions that the state makes directly to TRS on behalf of school districts and charter schools. The next amount that we're looking at is the local property taxes from M&O. So that's your property taxes that you're collecting locally. The next amount is the federal funds. So that's the green bar up at the top. That includes Title I, Idea B, career and tech, and other miscellaneous federal funds. And then also for local other funding, that's the two that are highlighted in the very light shade of gray. That includes mostly interest income, fees that you may charge, or facility rentals. And then lastly is the local property taxes from INS. You can see that of the $16,219 funding per student, that approximately $10,651 is made up of M&O funding. Of that, it includes the basic allotment. It includes the new teacher and staff retention allotments, the allotment for basic cost, Tier 2 enrichments, and then some of the traditional allotments that you're more used to, career and tech, SPED, compensatory early education, and then the small and mid-sized district allotment, as well as it includes the TRS on behalf, the school safety funds, and then the other allotments, which does include TIA as well. An interesting thing to note is that the basic allotment is approximately 31% of the $16,219 funding per student. The school finance system is complex. Much of it is a function of state statutory formulas, including the basic allotment. It is commonly understood that local school boards and district leaders have significant local control over how the total funding they receive is spent. What is less commonly understood is that there are also components of that statute that give school boards and district leaders some local control over how much total funding is generated by a local district. This presentation is intended to highlight the policy levers available to local leaders that impact the size of the total funding for a school system. Generally, you can think of maintenance and operations funding is driven by the basic allotment and then four large categories. Students, taxes for ISDs only, certain district characteristics, and district priorities and student opportunities. But within those categories, there is some level of control. Demographic makeup of your students, the collection rates, the tier one tax rates, reducing your local exemptions, the ISD year-over-year growth levels, small and mid-size ISD or charter, the number of campuses and teachers, and then where the district is located are typically outside the district's control. There are some items that a district has some influence over, and those are total enrollment, the attendance rates, and the appraisal accuracy. The items highlighted in green can be impacted by district decisions and generate additional revenue. The tier 2 rates, teacher supports both TIA and prep, instructional models, ADSI and dual language, school models, resource campuses, 1882 campuses, dropout recovery, day placement, and hybrid learning, CCM readiness, CTE sequences, rural CTE partnerships, PTech, also academic supports, so SBOE and OER, HQIM learning materials, blended learning, and then K3 reading interventions, summer school, homeschool UIL, and 3 and 4-year-old pre-K programs. HB2 increased funding in many ways beyond the basic allotment. Some of these funding streams require explicit district actions to access. Taken together, factors under district control can increase M&O funding by well over 15%. The items highlighted in green will make up the other district action dependents. So that's that green box right in the middle. If you were to immediately start implementing these programs, you could earn roughly $750 for the 25-26 school year. However, if you add in the other elements, the elements that were added at the bottom, you could substantially increase your M&O funding by $2,106. So now we will dive deeper into each of the categories and look at them in more detail. So we'll look at students, tax rates, district priorities, and student opportunities as they have an impact on your overall funding. Total enrollment across the state has increased over time. A district can control somewhat the enrollment by providing specialized school models that appeal to certain non-enrolled families. Districts and charters can expand their open enrollment policies within their own district boundaries. They can expand open enrollment policies outside of district boundaries. They can do targeted marketing, and they can add hybrid or virtual programs, dropout recovery programs, and pre-K programs. With each new student enrolled, a district could earn on average of $10,500 per student. Attendance rates are a key driver of funding, and they present an opportunity for many school districts. A 1% increase in your M&O funding is roughly $106 per enrolled student. We will now look at tax rates and its impact on your overall funding. Tax rates are a decision that ISDs only have the ability to do and generally are impacted by a board's decision. The M&O tax rate is made up of 3 components. Districts determine what rate to set for Tier 1, but it is compressed by the state. Also within the tax rate, there are 2 types of Tier 2 pennies, golden pennies and copper pennies. The copper pennies are subject to recapture. If a district goes from 5 Tier 2 pennies to all 8 golden pennies, they could increase their M&O funding by approximately 5%. Or if they went from 8 golden pennies to all 9 golden pennies, they could increase their M&O funding for a district by 5.6%. Reducing tax rates provides tax relief to taxpayers. Increasing tax rates increases the size of the district budget. Beyond the 140,000 homestead exemption that's adopted statewide, districts can adopt a local percentage homestead as well. The key factor on this is if a district does adopt a local homestead option, they will see a reduction in their funding by approximately 6% on average. However, if you're a recapture district, the state allows the district to keep the amount of M&O recapture that would have otherwise been sent to the state in an amount to the value lost from those collections. So no net loss. Districts can also have an impact on the appraisal districts because they get to elect a portion of the board members, which could play in the accuracy of the district's appraisals. Next, we'll turn it over to Andrew to talk about district priorities and student opportunities.
Thanks, David. So next we want to talk through different district priorities, student opportunities, and the impact of those decisions on local budgets. The way that we've broken this down is into the 6 categories that you see on your screen. There's teacher supports, academic supports, college, career, and military readiness, instructional models, school models, and other state supports. First, we'll start with teacher supports. And the first thing that we want to highlight with teacher supports is the teacher incentive allotment and enhanced TIA. The teacher incentive allotment is designed to reward and retain our best teachers in our classroom. The teacher incentive allotment includes 2 different components: teacher student growth results, but also teacher observation results. What local districts will do, they'll determine the rules of their teacher incentive allotment system locally, and they will get those approved by the Texas Education Agency, and then they will rate their teachers according to that system and according to how local districts designate. Texas Education Agency will send allotments to those districts in the form of the teacher incentive allotments for districts to pay those teachers additional funds. Additionally, through House Bill 2, the Texas legislature created the enhanced teacher incentive allotment designation, which allows local school systems to really redesign their salary schedule to fully align with teacher performance, to align all salaries within the district to the quality of teacher in the classroom. While the teacher incentive allotment is designed to recruit and retain the best teachers in our classrooms, the PREP allotment, the Preparing and Retaining Educators Through Partnership allotment, is designed to strengthen the quality of teacher recruitment, preparation, and mentorship across the state. This allotment is divided into 5 components, which you see on your screen. The PREP Grow Your Own program provides funding through which participating school systems can support employees not holding a teaching certificate in completing a bachelor's degree to do so. It also supports local school systems in supporting high school students to complete career and technical education courses to put those students on a track to becoming classroom teachers. For pre-service preparation, the PREP allotment empowers local school systems to fund paid residencies to support those aspiring teachers. It does that within the context of pre-service residencies, but also in supporting traditional pre-service programs and alternative pre-service programs. I will note that the traditional pre-service program and the alternative pre-service program take effect in the 27-28 school year. Lastly, the PREP Mentorship Program provides districts interested in implementing high-quality new teacher mentorship programs with funds to provide up to $1,000 to mentor teachers, to train those mentor teachers, and to provide release time to those teachers to support their aspiring teachers. Again, the top row that you see here is available starting in the 26-27 school year, and the traditional pre-service and alternative pre-service programs available in 27-28. Lastly, funding with the prep allotment is designed so that teachers that are serving in high needs areas or more rural areas, actually the allotment grows. The allotment is worth more money in those areas, and that is similar. That is actually the same approach as the teacher incentive allotment. Next, we'll dig into academic supports and align funding sources for those supports. High quality instructional materials ensure that students are provided access to grade level content throughout their educational journey. When districts purchase State Board of Education approved textbooks, those are textbooks that are approved through the EMRA process, the district gets access to an extra $40 per student. If districts are printing State Board of Education approved open education resources, they get an additional $20 per student. These are our Bluebonnet learning materials that are provided by the Texas Education Agency. In addition, there are implementation supports provided by the state in the form of the LIFT Leadership and Instructional Foundations for Texas grant program that are designed to provide districts with the implementation supports to implement high quality instructional materials, and that is a grant support that is available annually through the LASSO Unified Grant application. In addition to those supports, the state offers a blended learning grant program. Blended learning is a combination of online and teacher-led instruction. And the blended learning grant program is an annual grant program available through LASSO if a district is seeking supports to implement a high-quality blended learning grant program in one of their campuses. In addition, early literacy intervention allotment is such that LEAs can receive $250 for students that indicate they are at risk of not reading on grade level by the third grade. These are based upon low scores on 2 consecutive kindergarten through third grade beginning, middle year, and or end of year assessments. This is also applicable for students that are not meeting grade level on third grade STAR. And these are early literacy assessments that will be approved by the agency coming soon. Additionally, if students indicate that they are at risk of not reading on grade level, they are also eligible, and the districts are eligible for K-3 reading summer school. What this is a similar initiative to the Additional Day School Year program, which we'll discuss here in a minute. But in this case, you do not need to hit a base number of days, which you do need to hit in ADSE. For this, any student that is in K-3 that is not drawing down ADSE funds that does indicate they are at risk on one of those beginning, middle, and end of year assessments, those students are eligible for quarter day funding for additional time. So essentially each individual day they attend beyond the district base calendar, those students will earn a quarter day ADA for their district. Next, I want to talk through college, career, and military readiness supports available from the state. CTE funding is available such that it encourages students and districts to set up a system where those kids are engaging with career and technical education throughout their learning journey. They are also cascaded such that the weights of the funding increase as students go further into a CTE progression. So as students attend an advanced CTE course, they generate more funds per ADA. Students can also start participating in those courses as early as the 7th grade. And a student participating in a single 1 hour per day, level 3 or level 4, generates on average about $520. Next, rural CTE partnerships. This is something that is called the Rural Pathways and Excellence Partnership. We know that rural districts sometimes struggle to offer the full array of career and technical education courses that they would like. The Rural Pathways and Excellence Partnership allows an option where rural school districts can essentially share those CTE programs and earn additional funds for students that are engaged in that model. So if 2 districts have different CTE courses, a student from District A could actually attend the CTE course from District B, and additional funding can be generated for that. In one of these pathways, a student could generate on average of upwards of almost $3,000 per ADA for the district. In addition, as the RPEP allotment funds the current state of students that are included in that model, CCMR outcomes bonus funding will also increase for students that are in the RPEP model that ultimately generate back CCMR outcomes bonuses to the district. Next, P-TECH high school models. Any high school campus that adopts a P-TECH model will generate additional funding. This was increased in the in-House Bill 2 of the 89th legislative session. In addition, TEA offers P-TECH startup grants. Those are available through LASSO on an annual basis. Additionally, the state funds the cost of college, career, and military readiness exams, up to 2 industry-based certification exams per eligible student. And the state will also cover the cost of reimbursement of a college entrance exam, an SAT or an ACT, or a career readiness exam for each student enrolled in high school. The College Career and Military Readiness Outcomes Bonus is designed to make sure that all kids are college and career military ready. What happens in this bonus is that additional money flows back to districts based on outcomes that students achieve. And so actually most of the data with this comes after graduation. School systems receive additional funding for preparing students for college, career, and military when they take that next step, when the students take that next step in their career by enrolling in post-secondary institutions, completing an industry-approved credential, or even enlisting in the military. As more students graduate ready for college, career, and the military, outcomes bonuses of $4,000, $3,000, and $5,000, depending on the student, are provided back to the district. Additionally, with dual credit, community colleges receive formula funding for low-income students who are enrolled in dual credit programs. As a result, school systems should actually be able to expand the availability of dual credit courses to low-income students without any additional cost from their higher education partner. Next, various instructional models can provide additional state funding to school districts. The first we'd like to discuss is the Additional Days School Year Initiative. Additional Days School Years combats the problem of short school year calendars and summer slide to incentivize districts to increase the length of their calendar year. The base calendar in an ADSI model is required to be at least 175 days. But after that, those days then turn into Additional Days School Year days, ADSI days, from day 176 all the way up to day 205. If a district chooses to offer ADSI days, they get additional half-day formula funding for every student that attends that is a part of that ADSI model. If a school district or campus decides to offer 205 days, the half-day formula funding with ADSI turns into three-quarter day formula funding, where a district could earn even more money, upwards of an average of $650,000 per campus. In this model, you may see a district's M&O increase by upwards of 6%. With dual language, additional state funding is provided for emergent bilingual and English learner students. Additional funding is provided for LEAs that offer a dual language instructional model, which could result in an extra $311 per student in ADA. The extra funding is provided for both native Spanish speakers learning English in a one-way or dual language model, and also for native English speakers learning Spanish in a two-way model. Next, different school models have a different impact on local funding. First, we'd like to discuss the resource campuses and 1882 campuses. Resource campuses are a school model that is designed off the ACE school model, Accelerating Campus Excellence, and has been shown to have a significant impact in a school turnaround situation. With resource campuses, a campus will adopt a resource campus plan, which includes at least 50% of core subject teachers designated as teacher incentive allotment teachers, an ADSI calendar if they're elementary or middle, so over 100, in this case 181 days, a high quality instructional materials plan, and an ACE plan with related staffing requirements. Campuses that are eligible for resource campus designation must have had at least 3 DF or not rated ratings in the last 10 years, and also the campus has to have at least 5,000 students in ADA. Additional funding from a resource designation is roughly about $1,300 per year, or per ADA per year, although that fluctuates depending on district size. When stacking allotments that we discussed above, teacher incentive allotment, additional day school year, the IMRA allotment with high quality instructional materials, the total funding that may go to a resource campus could be upwards of $3,000 per ADA per year. An additional strategy that a district may take is an 1882 Texas partnership strategy. In that model, certain school districts, typically those without a small or mid-size allotment, can generate about $1,300 per student, which is the average small and mid-size amount for operating a campus in an 1882 partnership under a performance contract. Funding for dropout recovery programs. Texas law allows school systems to draw down funding for students who have not yet graduated all the way up to age 25. In the A through F accountability system, there's an alternative design for specialized dropout recovery schools, but these schools can be run by districts, or they can also be run through a partner with a specialized school operator. For reference, in 2023-2024, there were about 233,000 individuals statewide aged from 19 to 25 that did not possess a high school diploma. Every new student in this model generates funding consistent with that student, which is on average about $10,000 extra. It can be a significant impact to M&O funding, upwards of about 3.5%. Countywide day placement campuses. A single school system in each county can volunteer to launch a day placement campus to support students with very significant behavioral or other needs in a specialized learning environment. Per pupil revenue is provided under the foundational school program, typically with significant levels of additional revenue given the students that are typically included in a day placement. Base funding in this model, in addition to the per pupil funding, is provided, which is $250,000 upfront and an additional $100,000 to $150,000 per year. Next, hybrid and virtual campuses. Full-time hybrid campuses are established by school systems which have an irregular in-person attendance pattern. An example of this is an elementary school where a set of students comes for a full day on Monday and Wednesday. On Tuesday and Thursday, those students are in a different location. Those students are getting support from the school system, and parents typically commit to providing instruction at home with that support from the school. Extracurricular activities might be scheduled for Friday. In this model, full-time hybrid campuses convert to an enrollment-based funding model for the purposes of the basic allotment and for all other allotments otherwise based on ADA using the average rate of attendance for the district. This doesn't inherently increase M&O, but it can lead to an increase of enrollment with potentially higher level of achievement at a lower cost. Virtual campuses operate off the same funding basis as hybrid campuses with an enrollment-based funding model. In addition to those, there are other state supports that are available. There's funding for early childhood education. The state of Texas provides for eligible 3-year-old students half-day formula funding, and for eligible 4-year-old students full-day formula funding. If districts enroll those students, funding is automatically provided. HB 2 from the 89th legislature also made part of the early education allotment dependent on the provision of full-day pre-K for 4-year-olds. In the 2024-2025 school year, roughly 18% of eligible 3-year-old students were enrolled. So this leaves a significant amount of opportunity for districts to increase funding for early childhood. Additionally, there's extracurricular funding for UIL participation for homeschool students. So for non-enrolled students that are participating in UIL activities at your district, those students can result in your district earning additional funding for their participation. That funding can be upwards of $1,500 per activity. And lastly, beyond these funding sources, there are other local funds that are outside of M&O formulas where school systems have authority to generate revenue. Some examples of this, although this list is not exhaustive, are earnings from deposit and investments, charging for transportation, charging for student activities, charging for food outside of the school lunch program, fee for service, which includes charging fees under the education savings accounts, and other enterprise services. That was a lot of information. The information was provided to help you be more aware of the state resources that are available for your districts, but we wanted to provide additional resources that are available for you to be able to understand, share, and communicate this information. The first resource that we've made available for you is this webinar recording and the accompanying slide deck for you to be able to review on your own, share with relevant staff, your cabinet, or your board members. Additionally, TA has developed a district funding decision template to identify the impact of local decisions on district funding. This allows you to input a set of decisions that you are contemplating making on your own and see the impact on your specific district. In addition, we're here to help. You're always welcome to reach out to TEA or your ESC to get more information, support, and guidance on these topics. And lastly, we discussed a lot of different funding sources today, including some allotments and grant programs and other sources of funds available to you all. There is additional information about each of those funding sources that is available on the TEA website for you to review on your own and discuss with your team. With that, those are the resources that we've been able to make available to you all. We appreciate your attention, your time today, and appreciate being able to discuss with you all more ways that you can maximize the resources that are available to you from the state to support student achievement.